My question, Jared, is can the SEC Coach of the Year and the National Coach of the Year be different people if they're from the same conference? Because if you look at what Dawn Staley has done in the SEC this year, and I know she has won the award so many times, so some people are like, oh, give it to somebody new and exciting. Dawn has been there, done that, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that because I think if you win, you win.
I agree.
It's March. Oh, welcome onto the sideline, everybody. I'm Sports Director Matt Dowell alongside Jared Parker coming to you from our podcast studio. Jared, it's March.
We're here.
We're here. My favorite time of year. I'm not going to lie, everybody. I'm a college basketball nut. I love it. March is my favorite month to cover sports because it is tournament time. The regular season is over. And today, Jared, we're so excited for this episode because we're going to do something we haven't done on our podcast before. First off, let me give you a rundown of the episode, everybody, because it's going to be an eventful one. First, we're going to talk South Carolina women's basketball and their win over Kentucky. Just some brief thoughts on everything. And then we're going to do a full SEC tournament preview. Before we get into the bracket, we are going to break down all of the 6 major regular season awards. Who should win? Who's in the conversation? All of that, who we think should win those awards. And then we're going to go game by game and do a full SEC women's basketball tournament breakdown. And we're going to pick who we think is going to win each matchup and who's going to win it all in Greenville in just a few days because the bracket is hot off the press.
Yes.
So we are excited to break it all down. So as always, you guys, make sure you like, subscribe, comment on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast because we want to know your thoughts on all of this. A lot of discussion going to happen on this podcast episode. But before we get into the awards and the bracket breakdowns, Jared, let's talk about South Carolina's 60-56 win over Kentucky up in Lexington, which is a hard gym to win in.
Yeah.
And Kentucky is one of those sneaky good teams because every time I look at their ranking, I think they should be ranked higher than they are because I think at full strength, they're a really good, dangerous team. South Carolina, Jared, I thought this could be a trap game for them because they already won the SEC on Thursday against Missouri. The SEC tournament's coming up. So it's kind of like, okay, what's the motivation?
Right.
And for Kentucky, there was a lot of it. So I was like, okay, South Carolina could lose this game simply because Kentucky's going to really need the win, and South Carolina could already be looking towards Greenville, but they didn't do that. It wasn't a pretty fourth quarter from the Gamecocks, but a W is a W, and I think now regular season's over. They got through it, but I was interested to see how they would approach this test, and they passed it.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. I do agree with you, though. It was that type of game where you can kind of get caught sleeping, because if you really think about the standings, the teams above them, UConn and UCLA, they're probably not going to leapfrog them unless one of them loses. And everyone else behind them is SEC. So if you win the tournament, it was really kind of a no benefit game almost for South Carolina because you can kind of make the argument, well, if we lose, just go win the tournament and we'll still be the overall 3 seeds. So it's interesting definitely for those reasons. But at the end of the day, the regular season's over. You got the win, and that's really all you needed. And like you said, Kentucky, they're not an easy team to play regardless of what their ranking is. And they've shown that over the years.
29-2, South Carolina finishing the regular season. When you think of all the injuries, I mean, we still have not seen this team at full health for what, 90% of the year?
Yeah.
To only have 1 loss in conference play. And I've covered this league, Jared, for 10 years. I think this is the best the SEC has ever been. I mean, when I look at the standings, I'm like Kentucky is the 9th seed at the SEC tournament. I'm like, that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
So the conference is so good. For South Carolina to not be at full health for the majority of the conference season, to go 15-1, crazy good. Crazy impressive. To finish 2 games ahead of second place, crazy good. I mean, last year it was a coin toss.
Yes.
That was deciding this. And here we are. So it's just a huge shout out to Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks for what they did in this regular season. And before the season, we kind of did our predictions. We weren't too far off. We both, I think, predicted 1 loss on the schedule. And we said the UCLA Texas Thanksgiving week would be tricky and then 1 in conference play. So we didn't picked the right conference game that they were
Right.
going to lose. I didn't think it'd be Oklahoma, but we weren't too far off. So
Yeah.
shout out to us.
I know.
for our preseason breakdown. But anyway, South Carolina finishing the regular season 29-2 and 15-1 in SEC play. And I do think no matter what happens in Greenville this week, I think they will be the third number one overall seed. I don't think they're going to go down. And to be honest, I don't think they're going to go up. If UCLA wins the Big Ten and UConn wins the Big East, which they are both expected to do, I think those two are actually battling for the number one overall. But I think, which is a conversation in of itself, but I think South Carolina is the firm third number one going into the NCAA tournament, regardless of what happens in Greenville. With all that being said, now that the regular season is over, that means that regular season SEC awards are going to be coming out. Last year, they came out on the Tuesday after the final day of the regular season, so I'm expecting that to happen once again. But Jared and I are going to go over, there are 6 major awards that they give out, and these are voted on by the coaches, not by the media. So we are going to go over these 6 major awards and kind of give our thoughts on who's in the conversation, who we think should win, and maybe who will win, because those are all kind of different conversations.
Absolutely.
The first one, so again, there are 6, and Jared, I know you got some opinions on all of these, and as we go through these, guys, leave us your thoughts in the comments on who you think should win these awards, and where you're swaying as the regular season is over, because this conference was so good, and I do have to say, the coaches tend to like to spread the love. And there's they do. And there's also like first team, second team, third team. We're not going to get into those. We're just going to do the 6 individual awards today. The first is Player of the Year. Jared, give me your thoughts, because I think there's a solid top 3 here, but I do think there is one that has separated herself from everybody. And I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, Michaela Blakes.
Who you've been a fan of since last year.
Yes, I'm a huge Michaela Blakes fan. I mean, she's after an incredible year last year, she's taken a step further. And, this Vanderbilt team as a whole, they really have put together a great team performance.
They're
this
legit.
year. But yes, they are. Absolutely. But she's been the driver of that. And just her performances, especially clutch performances in games like that. She wins games for that team.
Yeah.
Like she can go out there and win you a game. You just keep it close and she'll take care of the rest. I think that's, out of all the awards, I feel like this was the easiest one for me to pick.
Absolutely. I do think if there's a top 3, Madison Booker from Texas was last year's winner, and then she was the preseason SEC Player of the Year. But she's had a great season, but I don't think it has been Player of the Year worthy. But I would put her in my top 3, and then I think Joyce Edwards would be the other one.
We have the same top 3.
Same top 3 in that conversation. But I do think Michaela has just been so good this season. And I think she's got a shot at National Player of the Year if she keeps dropping the numbers that she's dropping against the competition that she's doing it against. But I will be shocked if she is not the runaway, Player of the Year for the SEC. She's been a lot of fun to watch. But Vandy, they do have a great overall team, so don't think it's just Michaela winning these games, because it is not. She has good support, a supporting cast around her. The next one, Jared, is interesting because it's the Coach of the Year. And remember, these awards are only including conference play. They don't think about the non-con when they go through this. So all of these stats, everything you look at has to be what they did in the SEC, not what they have done the whole season overall. So the next one, which I know is going to have opinions from Gamecock fans and from basketball fans alike, it is the Coach of the Year. And I don't know who I would vote for this.
Yeah.
But my question, Jared, is can the SEC Coach of the Year and the National Coach of the Year be different people if they're from the same conference? Because if you look at what Dawn Staley has done in the SEC this year, and I know she has won the award so many times, so some people are like, oh, give it to somebody new and exciting. Dawn has been there, done that, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that, because I think if you win, you win.
I agree.
And I think when you look at what she's done this season with the injuries that they have had, the unpredictable rosters that she, night in, night out, like we said earlier and just a few minutes ago, to be 15-1 in what has been the best season ever of this conference, depending on who you talk to, should Dawn win the award based off of just winning this conference the way that they have in dominant fashion? Or should it be Shea Ralph, whose team and program was almost non-existent a few years ago and was in the dungeon? They were just in a bad place. Should it be Shea, who has taken this team to second place in the conference, a national, powerhouse, top 5 for the majority of the season. Should it be her? And I do think that, I'm going to be honest, if I had to vote for National Coach of the Year, I think I'm voting for Shea Ralph, just based off of what she has done on a national. Again, that award is for the national conversation, but conference play, should it be Dawn Staley? What do you think?
You see, it's such a hard conversation, and you made it even harder when you bring that up with, where Vanderbilt was to where they're at now.
I think it's like, are you a stats person? Are you a narrative person? Like, what do you base your vote on?
Right. And if I just look at these 16 games of SEC play, I have to give it to Dawn Staley. Because,
you are.
Like you said, the injuries, how good the SEC is, and the fact that they won the SEC with a 2-game buffer. For me, Dawn Staley should win the award. Will she win the award is a different question. I kind of doubt that she will. I feel like Shea Ralph is going to win it. And I don't have a problem with that because, like you said, where Vanderbilt has been before her and where they're at now, and even for what they did this season, if you're only looking at their SEC play, it's absolutely a performance deserving of SEC Coach of the Year. It's a shame that you can't give 2 out because they really both deserve it. But it was really hard because I was like, I don't want to just say Dawn because we're here in Columbia, but it's so hard for me to look at these 16 games of play and say, if I forget about narrative, forget about everything else, just looking at pure ball, that's a Coach of the Year performance.
And when you think outside, they lost to Oklahoma, but I think, if I'm off the top of my head, I think only 3 of their wins were in single digits. I think it was just Texas, LSU, and today Kentucky. I think so. They won the conference pretty handily, I think. If you guys, remember other games I'm not thinking of, a couple months ago, let me know. But anyway, I don't know who my vote would go to be honest with you. It's tough. I'm like you. This is the hardest one, I think, to vote on. So I don't know. I can't be a wuss and not. I know it's a South Carolina podcast. Am I going stats? If I voted for Dawn Staley, could I vote for Shea Ralph for National Coach of the Year? That's the conversation,
right?
Is that a thing? I don't know, but I do think Dawn deserves it for the season. But I also think Shea deserves it. Can they be Coach of the Year? I really don't know. I really don't know. I'm not trying to wuss out of the thing, but I'm telling you, I think I would vote for Shea for National Coach of the Year. But for conference play, it's a toss up for me. I'll say Staley for the sake that we're on a Gamecock pod, but I can see it going either way, and I think most people would be happy with either one. Sorry, I did kind of wuss out. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, let's move on to Freshman of the Year. Let me know what you guys think about that because I really don't know. Freshman of the Year, I do think there are 2 or 3 that are in the conversation for this. Who are you leaning for this? Should I go first? I feel like I put you on the spot. Okay, I'll go first. I think it's between Vanderbilt's Aubrey Galvin and Oklahoma's Aaliyah Chavez. And honestly, Jared, they do try and spread the love, but this might be a year where Vandy sweeps Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and Freshman of the Year. It's possible. Yeah. I think I would go Aubrey Galvin because I think she kind of has been an unexpected surprise. It's kind of that same, Vandy's just been such a good story this year. Aaliyah Chavez was the #1 recruit coming in. So I think maybe it's also could be an expectations thing of we expect more from someone who comes in #1 out of high school. But I think the way Galvin is played, I'm liking what Aubrey's doing out there. I think I would vote for Aubrey.
Yeah, I think Galvin has my vote, especially because winning does matter. You try to look at the individual as much as you can, but what she's been able to do, we mentioned earlier, it's not just Michaela Blake's on that team, and Galvin's been a huge piece for them, I think, in delivering wins. I did want to mention, though, Mississippi State's Madison Francis, who I don't think will win. She does not have my vote, but I think she deserves a mention because she averaged over 2 blocks, filling in at a forward role, but really a big paint protector since Medina Okot left. I think she's been great as a freshman there. I don't think she'll win it, but she definitely deserves some props for her performance this year.
Absolutely. That's a good shout out. I like that. But I'm interested to see if we'll see a Vandy sweep in those 3 categories.
Very, very possible.
Very possible. Next up is the Newcomer of the Year. And this award, and also I put out all of this on our social media, and I really, really enjoyed seeing everyone's thoughts. And everyone has kind of aligned with that. I should have brought that up, though. We did ask, and we got a great response from everybody about who you guys are voting for for and who you're picking, and everyone kind of aligned with what we have been saying. There was a few outliers, but for the most part, it was interesting to see that everyone kind of has the same thought process, and maybe it's just because all of the storylines kind of stand out this season in a big way. But I think these next three are a little more difficult. So, and this was the category when we did put it on social media, and I asked you guys, who you thought should win these awards. A lot of people didn't really understand what newcomer of the year was, and the newcomer of the year is really made for transfers, so that they could have a freshman of the year and a newcomer of the year. But it's someone who's new to the SEC, so it's not someone new to a team. So someone like Medina Okot can't win this award because she played for Mississippi State last year. But Tanaya Latson can win it because she came from the ACC. So Jared, it's interesting because the person I would vote for, the team has actually had a terrible last couple of weeks to end the regular season. We have the same person. But I think that she has played so well. Let's just say, I don't know why I'm acting like it's some big reveal. I would vote for Cody McMahon for Ole Miss because she came from Ohio State and really has been a sensational pick for Coach Yo at the Rebels. She's been a great fit. She's been the key, to the Rebels this season. They have not had a good end to the regular season. They lost, the last 4 or 5? Yeah. They lost both this week to Florida and A&M. I don't think that will affect the voting on this award, though, because I think she deserves it. I mean, she has just been night in, night out, just fantastic. And there was a few others that people dropped in this one, but Cody seemed to be, when I asked the fans, she seemed to be the overwhelming pick from the fans as well. Yeah,
I think this one was a bit of an easier pick for me as well to go with Cody. Obviously, the way they've ended their season, especially with today's loss to Texas A&M, not great, but it's not a team award. I know I did just say winning matters, which winning still does matter.
It does.
But her individual play has been stellar. I think she's averaging 21 points a game in the SEC. I don't know what it is after today, but I didn't calculate that when we were thinking about this. But she's been awesome for Ole Miss, a huge pickup. And I don't know, the way they've kind of fizzled out as of recently, I'd hate to see what they'd look like without her.
Yeah, agreed. And they got some work to do before Greenville for sure, because I've been very stunned. I wasn't surprised, losing to LSU and South Carolina, but I am surprised that kept going and they lost to Florida and today to Texas A&M. Next up on the list is Defensive Player of the Year, and if you guys follow our podcast, I made a big case for this a couple weeks ago. And so go back and listen, but I'm also going to preach again today because I do think, a hill I'll die on. Mm-hmm. The team that wins the conference and wins it convincingly should have someone in the 6.
Right.
And I know it doesn't always happen because I know there is South Carolina fatigue. But like UConn in the Big East, dominating the Big East, they should have individual awards.
And the same thing happens with tournament winners.
Yes,
they always have at least like 3 usually on the first team.
Agreed. And same with like UCLA in the Big Ten. If they dominate the Big Ten, and which they have, they should win individual awards. Like they should be at least one on the list from the school that won the conference. That's a hill I will die on. So, if they give it to Blake's, Ralph, Galvin, Cody, I'm like, it's weird to me if there's not a Gamecock anywhere on these 6. And I'm not just saying this because this is who I voted for in this next one, but I just do think that and I don't think the argument, Jared, this year of, they're just so deep, they have everyone's good, which has been the excuse in years past.
They don't have that.
I don't think that's the case this year. I think that South Carolina has definite superstars this year and definite key players. And it's really the starting 5 and, maybe 1 or 2 off the bench. But there are clear superstars on this South Carolina team. Mm-hmm. Anyway, with all that being said, I think the Defensive Player of the Year should be Raven Johnson. And I do think we talked about it in our past episode, but I think she always has everyone's best guard as her matchup, and she always does a good job. And it's not just this season. It's not just where she's standing out. It's been her whole career. But this season especially, I feel like she has stood out in a way that has been noticeable in a way that people cannot ignore anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, this one was such a hard one for me because you like to look at the stats,
steals, blocks,
and
all that kind of stuff.
When I'm looking at that, I'm like if you watch the games, that's why watching is so important because I'm like, I'm looking at the stats and I'm like, this doesn't match exactly what I'm seeing. There's some players that are leading in stat categories, and sometimes it is the truth. Like with Claire Strack, that's her stats match who she is.
And she she won the award last year from Kentucky, and she would be second place for me.
Yeah, I think she'd be a fine pick to repeat. But when you watch, and not just watching the games, but watching who it is down the line defending the best players, who it is picking up full court when you tip off, and it's Raven Johnson. And the stats may not match that, but even, for example, when she was defending Cody, there were a couple of steals that were credited to other people that Raven Johnson forced.
Yeah.
She doesn't get the credit for it, but when you talk about Raven not getting the credit she deserves sometimes, especially statistically, when you watch these games, you see who's forcing these plays, who's the anchor on defense. And it is Raven Johnson. And for South Carolina, they've defended so well as a team as well. And that's something you have to look at too. It's really hard for me to give someone Defensive Player of the Year when your team doesn't defend so well. And there's some people I was looking at where I'm like, well, they played fine, but the team didn't defend so great.
Yeah.
And for me, that's why it has to be Raven. But you could go Strack. Medina Okot also deserves some props there.
Like a lot of double-double.
Yeah, even like when you talk about stats, Mylasia Fulwiley had a great year statistically on defense. But that's another one where I'm like, when I watch it, I'm like, I can't give it to Mylasia.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I don't want to, like, if other people have other people, that's fine. I don't want it to be like, oh, like I said Raven, so Jared's like, we haven't discussed this, and I don't want it to be like, and. Raven is not someone who historically wins individual awards. Frankly, so I'm interested to see if they would give it to her, because she's not been like the political choice, because there are politics involved in awards. But I do think that this is the year for her to win this award. And other coaches, almost every coach recently has pointed her out.
Yes.
And like singled her out in their press conference with how important she is. So I wonder, since this is a coach voted award,
that's true, if
they will finally give her one.
Yeah.
And I think she deserves it. And again, Clara Strack, great choice. Mylasia, great choice. Yeah. There were other good choices, but I think this is Raven's year. And also, South Carolina does not win the SEC, and they don't become 29-2 without her running the show.
100%.
So, yeah.
And I tried to make before we did this, I tried to make my strongest argument against Raven.
Okay.
I tried. I was like, because I don't want to just, like, do it because she's here and we see her. Yeah. I tried to make my strongest arguments against, and statistically, those were the arguments I could come up with. But then when it's like you see who would replace her, maybe, I'm like, I tried not to give her this award, and I couldn't find a good reason not to give Raven the award.
It's hard for guards to win Defensive Player of the Year, because you can go off steals, but a lot of times it's based off blocks, and they'll go off, for a post player. So. And Clara Strack won it last year, so I won't be surprised if she gets it. And she is a great winner as well, but I do think that this is the year Raven should win. All right, our sixth and final award that we'll be giving out individually is also a good, like, six is a good way to describe it, because it is the sixth woman of the year. And it's funny, our last episode, I interviewed Elena Coates, who won this award back in the SEC, and she said she didn't know what it meant when she won it. And so if there are other people that don't know what the sixth woman of the year is, it means basically the most impactful player off the bench for their team. And I have a top two with this. Who went first last time? I don't remember. Did I go first? Yeah, because I led the Raven train. You go first. Yeah. So I have a top two, and I think there were a few for this. This is a tough one because most teams have someone who does a lot off the bench. So who you got for this?
It is hard because, like you said, most teams have people coming off the bench, and everyone does something so different for each team. So
you go guard.
It really depends on what you value.
Yeah.
But hey, I mentioned Mylasia for Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think she'll win that. I don't have her there for that, but. For Sixth Woman of the Year, I do have Mylasia Fulwiley, I think.
And I think she won last year.
Yeah. I think the scoring burst she's given off the bench, even Dawn mentioned it, that the pressure Mylasia's put on ball handlers has been, I think, an improvement in her game from last year. She's always been a good pickpocket.
Yeah.
But I think overall that's been an improvement of hers. She's averaging over a block a game. I think she's picked up in that sense. So I know people have said they don't see her developing, which... Whatever, that might be
she's having a good year.
I think she's gotten better.
Yeah.
I think you can see it. And I think this is her award.
Yeah. And, she's always been a spark off the bench. And it's interesting because everyone talks about, like, starting all the time with Mylasia. Yeah. For some reason, that's a big conversation. But I'm like, hey, she still plays a ton of minutes and puts up crazy good stats. Maybe this is just what she's meant to be. Yeah. Maybe she's meant to be the spark off the bench that when everyone's legs are a little tired, she comes in and just, like, zooms past everybody, on fast breaks. And there's nothing wrong with that because she's still playing crazy good minutes and putting up crazy stats. And she's also ending the season well, which I think matters with this kind of stuff. She played really well against Ole Miss. She's played really well these past few games, and she looks very confident. I also would vote for Malaysia, but I do have to say the other one on my list, who also a lot of you guys mentioned, is Kyla Oldacre from Texas.
Yeah.
So kind of the opposite of Malaysia. You know, she's a post player, but she comes off the bench and just kind of does her job. It does it really, really, gets quality minutes, does it really, really well. So, you know, you got Vandy, we've got South Carolina, we got Ole Miss. You know, do the coaches want to throw Texas some love in there? Do they go LSU? So this one will be interesting to see where they go. I think I would pick Malaysia if I had to pick between these two, but I do think Kyla Oldacre is in the conversation because she has significant, you know, she adds points, but she also rebounds really, really well. And so she is
hard to get a rebound off of.
And so she is a difference maker off of the bench as well. So I do think it comes down between those two. Jared, anything else you want to add about the awards?
No, this was fun.
This was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing this.
Those player of the year, coach of the year, freshman of the year, newcomer of the year, defensive player of the year, and sixth woman of the year. Those are our picks. Except I still don't know who I'm voting for coach of the year. I'm just going to keep it real.
Yeah.
But if you guys leave in the comments who you think should win, and thank you to everybody who we got a ton of reaction to this. I think people like voting. I think people like voting.
Yes. I like voting.
So I like voting. And so make sure you guys, if you didn't comment on our Twitter, make sure you guys in the comments on YouTube, tell us who you guys would vote for these 6 awards. You know, is Vandy going to sweep? Should South Carolina get in there somehow? Who you got? Are there players from other teams that we're not thinking of that you guys should be in the conversation? Let us know. But I'm excited. Last year they came out on the Tuesday after the final day of the regular season. I expect that to be the case once again. So we'll see. By the time you guys are watching or listening, the awards might already be out there. But we'll see how it all shakes out in just a couple of days. And now it is time for our bracket breakdown, because after Tuesday, after the regular season awards are given out, it is time to play some tournament basketball. It all begins.
Best time of the year.
Best time of the year. It all begins on Wednesday, March 4th, up in Greenville at Bon Secours Wellness Arena, which we have been to many, many times.
Yeah.
And I don't care if people think it's a home atmosphere for South Carolina, because I should say Georgia's also really close to Greenville. Yes. Tennessee's not that far from Greenville, so it is a good central location for a lot of people. And I know people whine about South Carolina, it's the home state, but you know what? They're going to go where the money is, and the Gamecock fans fill it up, A. And B, South Carolina has won in other places, not named Greenville, and also it's just they do a good job. So I like it in Greenville. You know, it's easy for us, which I know I'm biased in that standpoint.
I love that.
I love it as well, but I do think it is a good central location for a lot of the teams, not just South Carolina. So it's a strange conversation to me, because SEC tournaments throughout all sports are held all over the place, and so this just happens to be held in women's basketball, where they can fill the house and make a lot of money. And again, Greenville is such a great city, so if you guys ever want to go to the SEC tournament, it's my favorite. I'm just going to keep it real. I enjoyed this week maybe more than the NCAA tournament, because the vibes are chill. Everybody's having a good time.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not so much stress like the NCAA tournament with these players. And you're around
so much basketball too. That's
basketball.
Awesome.
It's awesome. And I think too, when teams lose at this tournament, it's not that they don't want to win, but I don't think they're devastated in the way that they are when the NCAA tournament comes around. I think it's a good vibe of the SEC tournament. It's my favorite time of the year. I cannot wait to get there on Friday. But before we get there on Friday to cover South Carolina, there are 2 days ahead of that. So what we're going to do in this part of our podcast is we are going to go game by game, and Jared and I are going to pick who we think is going to win every single game and go all the way to the winner. Here's the bracket right here. You can see we got tip-off times, dates, channels, networks, all of that kind of stuff. So it starts on Wednesday, March 4th, 3 days from the time of us recording this podcast at 11 a.m.
Oh my
Crazy. And now that it's a 16...
so soon.
It's so soon. And now that it's a 16-team league, it used to be that there was 2 games first, which was the bottom of the conference, and then it would start. But now there's 4 games the first day, which I love. The more basketball, the better. So You guys follow along with us. Tell us your brackets as we go along, who you guys are going to pick for each and every game. But Jared, the first game is on Wednesday at 11 a.m., and it's Arkansas, who is the 16 and last seed in this year's tournament. They did win their first game of conference play today against Auburn. So they do not come into the SEC tournament winless. So shout out to the Razorbacks, who are in their first year under a new head coach. But Jared, they're going to open against Kentucky, who's the 9th
Tough
seed.
break.
Tough break. But also, can we talk about how good this conference is? Kentucky is the 9th seed. Are they the best 9 seed in this tournament's history?
Oh my goodness,
They gotta be.
They have to be. I cannot imagine
They're
been
ranked
a time
16th in the country.
where there's been a 9 seed that nationally good.
It's crazy. So this is going to be the first game. Jared, who you got in this one?
This one, Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm going
I don't
Kentucky
think I need
as well.
to say much there.
And I'm not sure this one will be particularly close.
No.
Kentucky, I think Kentucky can beat anybody. I'm going to say that, even when the NCAA tournament comes around. And I'm interested to see how they approach this week because they were not in the top 16 revealed today. So they're going to be fighting for a home court advantage.
Yes.
And so I think Kentucky's going to – they do have something at play this week in Greenville. But yeah, I'm going Kentucky. After they wrap up in the first game on Wednesday, the second game will be Mississippi State, the 13 seed, taking on the 12 seed Florida. This one at 1:30. Jared, who are you picking in this?
I gotta go Florida. This one's a good one because I think Mississippi State can absolutely win, but I think Liv McGill, just watching that Florida team.
Liv McGill's good.
Yeah,
she's real good.
In a tournament setting, I think what she does on both ends
Yeah.
of the court, it's going to be really hard to stop her.
Yeah.
And then Florida surrounds her with some great. And I think Florida has shown that they can beat a lot of teams in their best days.
Agreed. I'm going to go Florida as well. These two teams did just play not that long ago, and Florida won by, I want to say, like 15. And I also think Florida is better than their record shows. If you look at their losses, the losses are not by a lot. And they did just have a good win against Ole Miss, but they are in the games.
Yeah.
And so I think the 12 seed, the losing record might deceive some people because Florida is a lot better than people think. And Liv McGill, if you guys are going to the SEC tournament or watching, Liv McGill is must-see TV.
Yes.
She's a very, very underrated player, and I think she should be on the All-SEC first team
100%.
when those awards come out because she is must-see TV. But I'm going Florida as well. I'm interested. Again, we have not talked about this, so we're picking these in real time, and I'm interested to see where we will change or be different. That's the day session on Wednesday. The night session then begins on Wednesday between the 15 seed Auburn and the 10 seed Texas A&M. Joni Taylor and the Aggies, they're on fire at the moment. They won like 5 of their last 6. They're making a push to the tournament. So the Aggies, could they be a sleeper in this tournament?
I think so. I mean, everyone talks about peaking at the right time. You definitely don't want to start your SEC season as they did because they lost quite a few.
Yeah.
But
it was not a good season until a couple weeks ago.
But if you want to talk about peaking, I don't know if anybody is peaking like they are right now in the conference.
Agreed. Joni Taylor also knows how to get to an SEC championship. She did so at Georgia. But not only have they won a lot in the past couple of weeks, they're beating some ranked teams.
Yes.
So Texas, they won at Tennessee. They beat Ole Miss today. So they're playing really, really well. But I'm going to go Texas A&M here, Jared.
Same here.
Oh, I'm keeping my eyes on the Aggies.
Yeah.
I love Joni Taylor as well. She's one of my favorite coaches in all of college basketball. And then wrapping us up on Wednesday at 8:30 tip-off will be the 14-seeded Missouri Tigers against number 11 Alabama. And it's crazy because so many of these like middle teams, their records are very similar. So you see Alabama and you're like, they're an 11 seed?
Alabama at 11.
But them, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Georgia, Tennessee, all super similar records in the conference. So that's also all the tiebreakers and everything. I was like, we got an email with the tiebreakers. It was like 2 paragraphs long between everything that separated all these teams. It was crazy.
I read it once and I was like, I don't think I'm going to try and understand this. I trust the SEC. Whatever. Go for it.
Between Missouri and Alabama, of course, this will see Kelly Harper return to the SEC tournament for the first time since the Camilla Buzzer booter. Sorry, we got to bring it up. But Missouri and Alabama will play. Missouri's another team. Grace Slaughter is really good for Missouri. I enjoy watching her play. Alabama, though, is another team that's got some good wins. They're just kind of in the middle of the road. So this one also a little tricky for me. But, Jared, I'm going to go Bama.
I think Bama is the right choice. But I don't know. I feel like Harper has something to prove in Greenville.
They're a tricky team.
Yeah, and they are a tricky team. I think they can surprise.
So are you picking Missouri?
I'm gonna pick Missouri.
You're gonna pick Missouri over Bama. Interesting.
They've got something to prove.
Hey, Kelly Harper again. She's been to an SEC tournament championship. She's been to some semis. Like she knows how to win at this tournament as well. So it will be interesting to see the coaching at this tournament this week to see what everybody comes up with. Okay, I got to write everything.
I realized what I just did with picking Missouri for next round. Okay.
Oh, yes. Oh, I see. Okay, let me write everything in here. So I got Florida, I got A&M, and I got Bama. Okay. Okay, so then after that, Thursday will begin the second round of action, and that will be Thursday at 11 a.m., and that will be Georgia is the 8 seed in this section. So shout out to the Bulldogs, who I think have been a sneaky good team this season, and I think have overexceeded many people's expectations. So they will be the 8 seed, and Jared, we both have them playing Kentucky. So this is an interesting game.
Hard,
This gets hard. This gets hard. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Kentucky. Okay. I'm a big fan of Kentucky, and I think that they're really, really good. But I would not be surprised to see Georgia win this game, but I'm going to go Wildcats here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kentucky too.
Oh, you?
I think obviously it came down to a tiebreaker, but I think although they are in the 9 seed and the SEC has their process, they are better than a 9 seed.
I agree.
I think you could argue that they're as good as a 6 or even maybe a 5 seed team would be.
Because a lot of their losses came when they did not have one of their best players. Mm-hmm. And so they've had some injuries. So I know every team has, and that's not an excuse, but I do think at full strength, Kentucky's really, really good. After that on Thursday will be Oklahoma, the 5 seed, taking on at 1:30 on Thursday. Oklahoma's the 5 seed, so this will be their debut at the SEC tournament, and we both have them playing Florida. So who you got here?
Man, this is a good one.
Yeah,
I think this could be like a sleeper type of game because
a 5-12, which I know we don't do in the SEC tournament. But.
Yeah, but I do think Oklahoma's going to win, but I think there's some interesting matchups here. But I think between Oklahoma's post play, especially with Reagan Beers, the shooters surrounding her, especially Aaliyah Chavez, I think they'll have a day 2 victory against Florida. But this is a sleeper game. I think this could be a close one, and
agreed.
I wouldn't be shocked if Florida won.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, Liv McGill is a talented player. She's a vet. I'm going to go Oklahoma as well. And I also think Oklahoma is playing well at the moment. They've ended the season very well. And also, Jared, what's crazy, the top 5 seeds are in the top 7 in the country.
Yes.
Can we just say that? That's crazy.
I would not want to play.
Oklahoma's number 7 in the country.
I wouldn't want to play in this tournament. This is just... It's hard everywhere. There's no easy route.
It is. But we both have Oklahoma going on to play LSU in the quarters. Then we go to the bottom half once again. Game 7 on Thursday will be at 6 o'clock. We both have A&M taking on Ole Miss. They just played today.
Yeah.
And A&M beat Ole Miss, which was a very, very interesting one. Jared.
You see, this is where it gets really hard because I'm so tempted to pick Texas A&M right now.
I'm picking them.
And I think
I'm picking A&M.
I think it's right to, and I think I would go with them too because, like we mentioned, they're peaking at the right time.
They are,
and
Ole Miss is turning down.
This is Thursday. This is 4 days from now.
Yeah,
and Ole Miss has been declining at the right time. I've got to go with Texas A&M in the rematch. Maybe Ole Miss brings out something different for tournament time, but
that's the hardest one for me to pick so far.
Same
I love Joni Taylor and I love Coach Yo, and they're both such good coaches. But if we're going off form at the moment, I'm going A&M. I'm going the 10 seed to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then this, the last one of the second round, this is where you and I differ. That will be game 8. That will be at 8:30 on Thursday, and this will be the Lady Vols' first game of the SEC tournament. And despite all this losing streak that they're on, Jared, they're the 6th seed at this tournament. So you would think, with the way just watching it, like, wow, Tennessee's got to be like really, really low. They're not. They're a 6th seed in this tournament, and I have them taking on Bama. You have them taking on Missouri.
Yes.
So who are you picking in Missouri, Tennessee?
I have to be honest. So I'm not. Man, I'm tempted to pick Missouri because it's just, for me right now, it's hard for me to
I'm not swaying you at all, so I'm going to be poker face.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see Tennessee, just to be quite frank, winning any tournament game at the moment. But I don't know if Missouri has enough for 2 days back-to-back of upsets in them. It would be a fun miracle story, but I think I'm going to end my miracle. I'm going to end my miracle run right here with Tennessee winning.
I do have to say, Tennessee and Mizzou played in the regular season, and the Lady Vols won by a lot. I think it was like 40.
Yes.
So matchup, you got to think matchups as well in a lot of these
that's true.
games, and that one was not close. Bama, Tennessee. Oh, I wish I had how they did in the regular season, because this, I don't know. Bama's good.
Yeah.
Bama's sneaky good. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna pick Alabama to beat Tennessee.
That's fair.
I'm gonna pick Bama. I got the 10 and the 11 seed going to the quarters. All right, so
And that's not crazy. It's not
crazy. I do have to say though, the double bye at the SEC tournament is huge. It's really hard for anyone outside the top 4 to win this tournament, because
you've got to win 4 or 5 straight.
I mean, think
days.
of how many games we've analyzed. We haven't even talked about the top 4 yet.
Yeah.
And so the top 4 are going to be well rested and ready to go by the time all of this has happened. So then on Friday at noon is when South Carolina will make their debut. They are the number 1 seed once again. I don't know how many years in a row that is. 2020, 21. It's got to be a lot. Maybe there was a year where they were the 2 seed. Oh yeah, A&M won 1 year. So we got like 3 or 4 or 5 years in a row where South Carolina, I guess it's 5 because they've won 5 years in a row. Duh, Matt. Duh. So anyway, South Carolina is the 1 seed. We both have them taking on Kentucky, which will be a rematch of what we saw today. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I think now what is this with a pretty much a week of preparation? I'm sure they get their advanced scouts. They could be preparing for Georgia as well, but if they're preparing for the same Kentucky team they just played today, I think they'll win, and I think they'll win much more convincingly than they did today.
I agree. And then really part of it is South Carolina, I think, is going to be a lot more locked in for this game than they were today. I think today was a get through it kind of game. I also think Kentucky is not a very deep team. They don't have a huge bench, which is why them being the 9 seed, having to play 2 games if they get to this point, is a huge disadvantage. And I think the legs are going to be real heavy by the time they play South Carolina, and I think South Carolina will win this one pretty convincingly. And I think Kentucky's probably one of the hardest matchups for South Carolina in this conference because they have size.
Yes.
But I just think energy-wise, I don't think Kentucky is going to have it in this game, and I think South Carolina is going to be ready to go. So I am picking the Gamecocks.
It's a hard thing to do.
The next one, Game 10, which is the second quarterfinal on Friday at 2:30. These first 2 games on ESPN2, which is awesome. This is an interesting game.
Yeah.
Oklahoma against LSU. This will be Kim Mulkey and the Tigers' debut at the tournament. They did play in the regular season at Oklahoma, and LSU won that one pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
But I do think Oklahoma's better now than they were then, but I also think LSU's better. So this is a tough one. But this one is maybe the most appealing game so far.
Oh, yeah. I agree here. And I think, I don't know, this game, so much of it hinges, I think, on how the Sooners shoot. Like, they're a team, they shoot a lot. And if they catch fire, it's really, really hard to beat them. But, like, I don't, that's what the game hinges on. I could see them catching fire and bringing it to LSU and, you know, winning by a decent margin. But I could also see them going cold in tournament play once the lights come on and, LSU throws everything at them and also losing by a decent margin.
Again, for me, I think this is a bad matchup for Oklahoma because the way Oklahoma plays is so fast-paced, and I think a lot of this matchup comes down to athleticism, and LSU likes to play in transition, and they like to play fast, and they are so talented when it is fast-paced like that. And you got Malaysia, you got Flage, you got Michaela, all of these just vets who are good in transition, and I think that's one reason why the game in Norman was not super competitive, because I think it's a game that LSU likes to play.
Yes.
And so for me, I'm going to go LSU here, and it's good on paper, but I actually would not be surprised if LSU won this convincingly.
Yeah.
Matchup-wise.
Yeah, I'm going LSU, but I just think Oklahoma's not ready yet. They might be there next year, the year after that, but today I don't think they're ready yet.
And Oklahoma, I think they were the 5 seed last year, and they did get to the semis.
They did.
So they were kind of broke the mold of the top 4. Next up, did you have A&M winning?
Yeah.
So we both have the 10-seeded Aggies going to the quarters to take on Vandy, who is my favorite story of the season. They are my favorite story on a national. I love Shea Ralph. I love watching Michaela Blakes. I love watching these Commodores. And it was one of those every week we're all like, are they legit? Are they legit? Are they legit? And then the calendar, we're done. They're legit.
Yeah.
The regular season's over. This team can play. You don't get the 2 seed in this conference if you're not the real deal.
Absolutely.
You're not number 5 in the country and going to be a 2 seed in March if you're not the real deal. So this Vandy team, I love watching them play. And
Incredible.
I think there's going to be a fun energy around them in Greenville when they take the court. I think it's going to be too much for A&M.
Yeah, I think this is where the miracle run ends.
Agreed.
Here.
I think Michaela Blake's. I also think Michaela Blake's. I think she's a hooper. I think she's a gamer. I think she's going to be ready for these bright lights.
Yeah, she is so ready when the pressure's on. Like,
Yeah.
she's one player I'm going to every time when the pressure's on, and this is what that tournament brings.
So Vandy and whoever they play, their quarterfinal will be at 6:00 on Friday, and then the last one will be the debut of Texas, who is the 3 seed at this year's tournament. Which I gotta say, I did not see coming. Yeah. I thought I thought it was gonna be between South Carolina and Texas, and I thought they were gonna duke it out again.
Yeah.
It's South Carolina, Vandy, and then the Longhorns. I have them taking on Bama, Jared. You have them taking on the Lady Vols. I'm gonna be honest. I think the top 4 seeds are gonna make the semis.
Agreed.
I don't know. I think Oklahoma probably has the best chance.
Yeah.
Maybe Ole Miss if they can find their form again. But I have a hard time seeing anybody but the top 4 making the semis.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's got the best shot, but out of the other 3 games, South Carolina, Vandy, Texas, I have the 3 of them taking that.
All right. And then we wrap up. Not wrap up. We're in the semis on Saturday. So South Carolina, because they're the 1 seed, will play the first semifinal on Saturday. That will be at 4:30. We both have South Carolina LSU, which is a lot of history, of course, at this tournament. And it's a great ball game that they played earlier this season.
Yes.
This is interesting to me, though, Jared, because this kind of becomes a home game for South Carolina if they play. And I actually thought in Baton Rouge, I don't know. Give me your thoughts on this first.
I don't know. Well, I mean, that's part of it. It does become a home game for South Carolina. I think they'll have a ton of Gamecocks in that crowd.
Yeah.
But South Carolina hasn't lost to LSU in so long. I think since they've last played, I do think South Carolina has gotten better.
Yeah, agreed.
They may not be healthier, but they've gotten better. I think Tessa Johnson obviously was a nightmare for the Tigers. I think Raven is so solid down the stretch, and then just everyone else. Tanaya Latz and Medina Okot is back in her groove.
Do they have an answer for Medina?
I don't think they do.
I don't think so either.
And then when you see, which I don't know, I asked my followers if they had a nickname for Medina and Alicia. Twin Towers was a nickname.
Okay.
I don't know.
That was Asia and Elena's nickname.
Yeah, which is why I was like, I don't know if we can do that. We might have to find something new. But when those two come in, it's like a whole different ball game.
It is.
I think South Carolina has gotten better since that
Agreed.
game. Not that LSU hasn't, but I think South Carolina has outpaced them in that sense. There's just no reason for me to pick LSU. I can't really find a reason to pick them.
For me, like that game in Baton Rouge, I think that was the toughest road game of the season for South Carolina. I think the PMAC is such a great environment. So they beat LSU in Baton Rouge, and I don't actually think South Carolina played their best basketball. They missed a lot of layups. They turned the ball over. There was a lot of foul trouble, and they still won the game by 7. So I think South Carolina will be pretty comfortable, more comfortable in this environment than they were in Baton Rouge, which I think Baton Rouge is one of those environments where you're like, let's just try and win, even if it's by 1 point.
Yeah.
Try and win the game because it's that tough to win in. But I'm going to go South Carolina here, and like you, it's kind of one of those, would I be shocked if LSU won? No, but it's hard for me to pick them when they haven't done it yet.
Right.
At least, in 12, what's the record? I don't even remember what the record is. It's a long time. 19, what are we at? 18, 19?
It's near 20.
It's a long time, but I'm picking South Carolina in that. And then the next one is the other semi, Jared. Vandy, Texas is really interesting because Texas does have the experience, but they played in the regular season. And Vandy whooped them.
Yeah.
Whooped them. And I was watching. We were texting. We were like, is this score real? We couldn't believe it. And I don't know if anyone all season long has broken down Texas's defense the way Vandy did. I mean, Texas is a tough team to score on. Their defense is incredible. Vandy made it look like nothing. So will we see that again? Was it just a bad day at the office for Texas? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, you could take what Vic Schaefer said and maybe say we're soft that day, but I think if that is true, I think that is a problem I don't expect to see with them again. I think when you think of the experience that Schaefer has, the experience that that team has, they're led by vets. They have a bunch of vets on that team, not just starting, but when you go down the bench, they have a lot of vets. I don't think they'll have a night like that again. And I don't think they'll have a night like that against Vandy. And I like the experience that they bring to this tournament. I would not at all be surprised if Vandy wins, if they catch fire. I mean, it's one of those things about matchups. I do think Vandy is a bad matchup for Texas, especially Texas has seemed to regress in their willingness to shoot threes as the season has gone on, which was something that kind of surprised me because they started out shooting threes and then they've kind of gone away from that, it seems like, especially in the clutch. So Vandy can run away with it again, but I think Texas, I think they'll defend hard. I think they'll rebound well, and I think they'll win this game.
So you're going Texas?
I'm going Texas.
All right. This is where we're going to differ. Okay. I'm going Vandy. I'm on the Vandy train. I think, first of all, I think the 3 seed is the worst one to get of the top 4 because they don't play till 8:30 on Friday, and it's the toughest turnaround for anyone to have. And so, not that I think Texas will be tired, but I just think it's the toughest position to get in because you don't get home till late. Mm-hmm. You're going to bed late, all of that. Whereas South Carolina, they're playing at noon. They're at the hotel by 3:30.
And God forbid the game before you goes late, too.
Yes, exactly. That's a really good point. And 8:30 is the approximate time.
Yeah.
But I'm going Vandy. I think they have something to prove. And based off of that regular season game, I don't know. I think maybe it's a bad matchup for Texas. I'm going to go with South Carolina Vandy.
Yeah.
Championship.
Now, don't get me wrong.
You're going the rematch.
I think personally, as a fan, we saw South Carolina and Texas play 4 times last year. This would be the 3rd time they'd play this year if they play again. And who knows?
Maybe I just don't want to see it again.
So I would rather see South Carolina Vandy because I've just seen this matchup so much, and it's not me rooting against Texas. I just don't want to see this again.
Yeah, but you're going Texas. You think experience is going to come through?
I do.
In this tournament, and that was the championship last year. South Carolina won by 19. So you've got South Carolina, Texas. Yes. I've got South Carolina, Vandy, and I just don't see anyone. I don't see South Carolina losing this week.
Yeah,
I think they win it again.
I'm the same way. In a South Carolina Texas match, I think we mentioned it. Texas has not beaten South Carolina when it matters yet for real.
And Don owns Vic in big games.
Yes, so they've beaten them, but when it matters like this, South Carolina wins, and I think that'll happen again.
Yeah, for me, I got South Carolina Vandy, but it proved to be a bad matchup for Vandy.
Yes.
Kind of the opposite of what I just said with Vandy, Texas. I think South Carolina is a bad matchup for Vanderbilt, and I just think coaching-wise, in a championship game, I'm going to pick Don Staley over most coaches. And so I'm going South Carolina once again. I also think being the 1 seed is just a massive, massive advantage in this tournament, and that's why you want it. That's why you want to be the 1 seed. So we're both picking South Carolina, but our roads to get there for this SEC tournament in Greenville differ just a little bit. As always, make sure you guys let us know who you're picking. Fill out a bracket with us because you don't get a lot of conference bracket breakdowns and a lot of conference bracketology. So you guys join the conversation. This was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this because we're nerds. And so we love talking about every single game in depth, every award like this in depth. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I nerded out. I geeked out, and I had a good time. We were both talking like, I can't wait for this episode.
Yes, it's so much fun because we talk about South Carolina so much, but we do watch all of these. Like, we are women's basketball fans. We watch all these other games, so it's cool to have a chance to talk about the other 15 teams without having to refer to how it relates to South Carolina exactly. Just get a chance to like you said, nerd out on the other players and teams that we enjoy watching.
So hopefully you guys who are also nerds really enjoyed this breakdown of all the awards and all the brackets. Again, who are you picking? Who you got? It all starts on Wednesday in Greenville at the SEC tournament, and then it's March. But again, I'm an SEC tournament nerd. This was my 10th one, Jared. My 10th one.
Yeah. It's such a fun environment.
It's so fun.
That's crazy. 10.
It's 10.
Nice.
10. And South Carolina's won most of them.
Yes.
So I have
number 2 for me.
I know. I've been there. Yeah, you were there championship Sunday. We got a good track record covering the Gamecocks. We'll see if this year is another special one for Don Staley and South Carolina. He's Jared Parker. I'm Matt Dowell. As always, make sure you guys subscribe, follow, rate us, comment, do all of that fun stuff on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon Music. He's Jared. I'm Matt. We will see you at the SEC tournament in Greenville. We'll be there on Friday. So if you're there, come say hey. We'd love to meet you guys. And thank you as always for watching and supporting as our platform, our podcast continues to grow rapidly, Jared. Yeah. People joining the party on the sideline, and we love it. He's Jared. I'm Matt. We'll see you next time here on the sideline. I should say, wait, before we wrap up, we're going to be churning out content here in March.
It's going to be a lot.
It's going to be a lot of content. So get ready for a lot of basketball talk, a lot of multiple episodes every single week. We're going to just give you guys everything, as we are going to get a lot of access to the team. We're going to have preview, breakdowns, all that stuff, interviews with the players, because we will get open locker rooms during the tournament. So we will have this week at the SEC tournament full breakdowns and previews of every single game that South Carolina is playing this week in Greenville. So buckle up, and we'll continue that as well during the NCAA tournament. Anyway, I had to get that in before we end the episode. He's Jared. I'm Matt. We'll see you next time here on the sideline.